What if the world we perceive is just a shadow of a higher ultimate reality? How do these ideal forms shape our understanding of existence? Can our senses truly grasp the essence of what is real? Plato's theory of forms presents a profound metaphysical framework where the tangible world we perceive is merely a shadow of the true ideal forms. He posited that the objects we perceive are not the ultimate reality. They are merely shadows of the forms, suggesting that our sensory experiences are limited reflections of a higher reality. In this theory, what we see and touch and feel are imperfect copies of these ideal forms, guiding us to look beyond mere appearances. According to Plato, the true essence of things lies in their ideal forms, a perspective that reinforces our understanding of perception and reality. The forms, as the ultimate archetypes, anchor our perception of the world, illuminating the underlying truth of existence.
In the cavern's dark embrace, shadows dance on the wall. Prisoners bound by chains perceive this as their all. Shadows are mere reflections, crafted by evolution's hand, interfaces for survival, not the true vast land. A wall between their world and the deeper truth unknown. The fire's glow creates illusions, a world on its own. Limited perceptions through survival's lens they see, a cycle of reinforcement shaping reality. One prisoner breaks free, ascends from shadow's clutch, consciousness awakens, begins to see and touch, integrates the patterns, abstract forms so pure beyond the cave's illusions, a reality obscure. Emerging from the cave, the sun's truth does he see, a full integration of what was meant to be. Resonance guiding, evolution's craft, consciousness enlightened, perceives the true path. Back to the cave he goes, to free the minds in chains. Enlightened now, he seeks to break their mental reins. Sharing deeper insights to collective wisdom lead, a cycle of enlightenment from the shadow freed. Yet resistance he does face, shadows are their creed, entrenched perceptions guard against the freed one's seed. Dissonance and barriers, cognitive and cold, new paradigms rejected, the old ways still hold. Perception, a tool evolved, a simplified view, survival is its purpose, but it's not the full truth. Shadows on the wall, mere fragments of the whole, interfaces of life obscuring the soul. Beyond these shadows lies reality so vast, abstract forms and patterns, connections from the past. Plato's forms, the essence, deeper truths they show. Perceptions are but whispers of what we need to know. Consciousness, the bridge from perception to the real. Integrating patterns, the truths it does reveal. Philosophical inquiry, the path it must tread from shadows to the sunlight where knowledge is spread. Morphic resonance, a field where patterns flow, collective memory shaping how we grow. Influences unseen, yet deeply they reside, perception, reality and consciousness allied. Perception shapes our world, a dynamic dance so true, each interaction hints at deeper patterns view. Reality is fluid, consciousness the guide, harmonic triads blend, perceptions coincide. By merging perspectives, patterns we reveal, holistic understanding, a cosmic wheel. Morphic fields align, triads harmonize, reality as consciousness evolving through our eyes. So in Journey Through the Cave, modern truths we find, perception, reality and consciousness combined. From shadows to the sunlight, our journey is clear, seeking deeper truths through the lens we peer.
Have you ever wondered what it truly means to know something? A question that unveils the complexity of knowledge itself. In our quest to understand, we encounter two contrasting perspectives: the Socratic credo, an affirmation of knowing nothing as the beginning of wisdom, and the expertise paradigm, the belief in assumed comprehensive knowledge. These two paradigms, each with its unique approach to knowledge acquisition and application, offer us profound insights into the nature of knowing. Let's delve into these two paradigms and explore what they reveal about the pursuit of knowledge. Socrates, the ancient philosopher, famously said, "I know that I know nothing." This statement, known as the Socratic credo, is a profound admission of humility and an acknowledgement of the infinite expanse of knowledge yet to be discovered. The first aspect of this credo is the acknowledgement of one's limitations in knowledge. Socrates believed that true wisdom lay in the recognition of one's own ignorance. By admitting that we know nothing, we open ourselves up to the possibility of learning, unhampered by the constraints of assumed knowledge or preconceived notions. The second aspect of the Socratic credo is the continuous pursuit of knowledge. Socrates was a relentless seeker of truth, always questioning, always probing. He believed that the quest for understanding was a lifelong journey, not a destination. This constant pursuit of knowledge, driven by the acknowledgement of our own ignorance, keeps us humble and grounded. It encourages us to keep our minds open and receptive, ready to absorb new information and ideas. The third and final aspect of the Socratic Credo is the humble application of knowledge. According to Socrates, knowledge in itself is not sufficient. It must be applied wisely and modestly. We must use what we know to better ourselves and the world around us, always bearing in mind that our understanding is limited and that there is always more to learn. In essence, the Socratic Credo is a philosophy of humility, curiosity, and continual learning. It is a reminder that the quest for knowledge is an ongoing process, and that the wisest among us are those who recognize their own limitations and strive to learn more. In the Socratic Credo, wisdom lies not in certainty, but in the recognition of one's ignorance and the unending quest for understanding. Contrast this with the modern notion of the expert, a person who is assumed to have comprehensive knowledge in a particular field. This is the foundation of what we call the expertise paradigm. Picture this as a tightrope walker, perfectly balanced on a thin wire of certainty, believing he has comprehensive knowledge of his craft. But the wind of change is unpredictable, and this assumed expertise, this certainty, is his first misstep. This belief often gives rise to a closed or unquestioning mindset, the second characteristic of the expertise paradigm. It's as if the tightrope walker has closed his eyes, convinced he knows all there is to know about his craft. He stops learning, stops questioning. He believes he knows enough to navigate the wire without looking, without further understanding. The final aspect of the expertise paradigm is the rigid application of knowledge. Again, visualize our tightrope walker. He moves in a straight line, using his knowledge inflexibly, without considering the possibility of being wrong, of falling. He is certain of his steps, his moves, his knowledge. He does not waver, he does not adjust, he just applies what he knows, rigidly, unquestioningly. This creates a cycle, a self-reinforcing loop of certainty that resists new insights. The tightrope walker is so sure of his knowledge, so rigid in his application, that he rejects any suggestion of change, of growth, of learning something new. He's trapped in a cycle of his own creation, a cycle that may ultimately lead to his downfall. The expertise paradigm, then, is a false equilibrium. It's a kind of balance, yes, but a dangerous one. It's a balance based on the assumption of comprehensive knowledge, a closed mindset, and the rigid application of knowledge. It's a balance that resists change, growth, and new insights. And so, in the expertise paradigm, knowledge is seen as a possession to be acquired and defended, rather than a journey to be embarked upon. It's a paradigm that stands in stark contrast to the Socratic Credo, the idea of knowing that we know nothing. The expertise paradigm, in essence, is a trap, a cycle of certainty that ultimately limits our understanding and growth.
In the heart of the burning sphere, a whisper of thought, proto-conscious flames in every photon caught. From the core to the corona, a sentient dance, elemental awareness in every solar glance. Across the void, where darkness sings in light, the sun's pulse connects, a beacon in the night. In the cosmic web, where galaxies entwine, the sun's awareness, part of the grand design. As a neuron in the vast celestial brain, each flare a thought in the universe's refrain. On Earth below, where life begins to dream, the sun's warmth ignites consciousness gleam. In the dance of light and shadow, mind takes form, emerging from the sun's persistent storm. In each heartbeat, in every breath we claim the sun's touch, a spark in evolution's flame. The sun stands at the crossroads of the all, a nexus where the conscious currents fall. It bridges realms, from star to waking eyes, in the fusion of the many, where consciousness lies. Consciousness can be seen as the awareness or subjective experience that arises within certain systems. It is the ability to perceive, reflect, and interact with the world in a meaningful way. However, consciousness is not just a passive observer. It actively engages with and shapes the reality it perceives. Consciousness cannot be understood in isolation. It is deeply interconnected with the systems that contain and manifest it, and the complex structures that emerge within these systems. The triad of self-contained systems, A, complexity, B, and emergent properties, C, provides a framework for understanding how consciousness arises from the interaction of these three elements. Each plays a crucial role in creating the phenomenon of consciousness, and their coexistence is essential for the system to function. Self-contained systems, A, refer to entities that maintain a distinct boundary and internal organization, enabling them to function independently within a larger environment. These systems are self-contained because they possess the mechanisms to regulate their internal states and sustain themselves over time. Examples include cells, organisms, ecosystems, and even the universe itself. A key characteristic of self-contained systems is that they arise naturally, with boundaries that separate them from their surroundings, allowing them to operate as autonomous units. Complexity, B, emerges as these self-contained systems interact with their environment and with other systems. Complexity is not merely about unpredictability, but rather about how simple components and interactions through repetition and feedback loops give rise to increasingly intricate patterns and structures over time. For instance, the complexity of a living organism arises from the multitude of interactions between its cells, organs, and systems, all governed by fundamental biological processes. As complexity increases, it sets the stage for the emergence of new properties and behaviors that cannot be reduced to the system's individual components. Emergent properties, C, are those novel characteristics or behaviors that arise from the complexity within self-contained systems. These properties are not present in the individual parts of the system, but come into being when the system operates as a whole. Emergent properties can include consciousness, metabolism, or ecological balance, phenomena that emerge from the complex interactions within and between self-contained systems. These properties are essential to the functioning and evolution of the systems themselves, providing new capabilities and adaptations that allow the system to thrive in a changing environment.
The toad and I stare eye to eye. All else is still. Consciousness is clear. Mind bends to will. A breath drawn deep, the shift begins. Consciousness fractures, the journey spins. Colors flare, shapes break and flow. Perception dances, warps and glows. In a vibrant realm where entities gleam, consciousness merges, lost in the dream. Perception expands, senses collide, synesthetic waves in a boundless tide. Reality breathes, alive and whole, co-created by each and every soul. Reality woven in a sacred design, a tapestry of truth, both yours and mine. Understanding flows like a river's course, peace in the balance, a gentle force. Slowly the light begins to recede. Consciousness returns, a familiar creed. Perception clears, the colors subside. Reality reclaims the physical ride. I sit in stillness, the journey complete. Consciousness altered, subtle and sweet. Perception tinged with a newfound grace. Reality held in a different place. This framework explores consciousness as a dynamic, emergent property of complex systems, driven by the system's intrinsic tendency toward equilibrium. It posits that as systems evolve and become more complex, they encounter situations that disrupt the balance established by their existing logical structures. To restore equilibrium, these systems are compelled to adopt progressively higher levels of logical organization, leading to increasingly sophisticated forms of consciousness. At the heart of this framework is the concept of triads, groups of three interrelated elements that interact according to specific patterns. These triads represent the fundamental units of interaction within a system, with each pattern reflecting a different way in which the system maintains balance. The progression of consciousness begins with simple equivalence, where elements are balanced in a straightforward manner, and then moves through more complex patterns such as reinforcement, causation, and beyond. As systems encounter challenges that disrupt their existing equilibrium, they are pushed to reorganize their internal relationships using the next higher logical structure. This creates a progression where mental processes develop and become more complex over time. Each new level of complexity requires the system to integrate more sophisticated interactions, enhancing its capacity for self-regulation and equilibrium. This progression is driven by both biological factors and experiential learning as the system adapts to its environment. In this context, the development of consciousness is seen as a gradual ascent through these levels of complexity. As systems integrate higher-order triads and manage increasingly intricate relationships, they become more self-aware. The human brain, capable of navigating all these levels, exemplifies this process of conscious evolution. When a system can internally contemplate and understand these patterns, it becomes capable of recognizing and applying them in response to external experiences. This progressive framework aligns with Carl Friston's free energy principle, which posits that systems act to minimize free energy or surprise by reducing the discrepancy between their predictions and actual sensory inputs. As systems advance through more complex levels of logical organization, they become increasingly adept at managing these discrepancies, thus maintaining equilibrium and enhancing their conscious awareness. The following sections explore specific triads and their corresponding patterns, illustrating how consciousness emerges and evolves through this progressive process. Each level represents a step in the journey toward greater self-awareness, as systems refine their ability to maintain balance and adapt to their environment, ultimately leading to a fully integrated and conscious mind. Coexistence, symbiotic consciousness. At the foundational level, consciousness emerges from the mutual coexistence of elements. Here, the system's basic drive is to maintain balance through simple equivalence. Each element supports and stabilizes the others in a straightforward, interdependent relationship. This form of consciousness reflects an early stage where awareness is rooted in maintaining simple, mutually reinforcing connections. Disruptions at this level push the system to recognize and reinforce these relationships, preparing it for more complex interactions. Equilibrium, balanced consciousness. Consciousness here involves the system's ability to maintain balance by harmonizing the presence and absence of certain elements. This stage reflects a conscious awareness of the need to balance competing forces to sustain stability. When faced with disruptions, the system learns to modulate these forces more carefully, enhancing its capacity to maintain equilibrium through a refined sense of balance. Reinforcement, cascading consciousness. As consciousness evolves, it begins to recognize the cascading effects of interactions. In this stage, the system maintains equilibrium by reinforcing connections where the activation of one element triggers a supportive reaction in others. Disruptions that challenge these connections push the system to develop a deeper understanding of how actions and reactions are linked, leading to a more dynamic and interconnected form of consciousness. Feedback, inhibitory consciousness. Consciousness now involves understanding and managing inhibitory feedback loops. The system learns to maintain stability by recognizing that the absence or inhibition of certain elements can prevent instability in others. This stage reflects a growing awareness of the need to regulate and control interactions to avoid disruptions, leading to a more nuanced form of self-regulation and conscious control. Causal consciousness. Consciousness at this level becomes more sophisticated as it navigates linear cause and effect relationships. The system stabilizes itself by understanding and predicting the consequences of its actions. When faced with disruptions that defy simple causality, the system is pushed to refine its reasoning, paving the way for more complex forms of understanding and a more deterministic approach to consciousness. Reversive consciousness. Here, consciousness develops the capacity to revert to previous states to restore equilibrium. This stage reflects an adaptive consciousness that can cycle through different states to find stability. Disruptions that prevent easy reversions push the system to explore alternative paths, fostering a consciousness that is more resilient and flexible in its approach to maintaining balance. Nonlinear consciousness. Consciousness becomes significantly more complex as it begins to recognize and navigate nonlinear relationships. The system learns that not all interactions follow a straightforward path, requiring a more sophisticated approach to maintain equilibrium. Disruptions at this level encourage the system to embrace complexity and uncertainty, leading to a consciousness that is adept at managing intricate and sometimes unpredictable influences. Retrospective consciousness. At this stage, consciousness involves looking back at past outcomes to inform current decisions. The system maintains stability by retrospectively adjusting its internal states based on previous experiences. Disruptions that challenge the reliability of past patterns push the system to develop a more critical and reflective consciousness, capable of learning from history to better navigate the present. Inclusive consciousness. At this level, consciousness arises through understanding multiple causes, giving rise to the third element of a system, and thus understanding of the unified whole. By minimizing surprise across multiple influences, the system achieves a more comprehensive form of equilibrium. This inclusive approach represents a more complex form of consciousness that coordinates multiple elements to sustain stability. Exclusive consciousness. Exclusive consciousness emerges when the system realizes that certain elements, when absent, help stabilize the whole. The absence of one element can prevent destabilizing influences from affecting others. This form of consciousness is selective, manifesting in the system's ability to consciously exclude or isolate elements that could lead to instability, thereby maintaining equilibrium by refining and focusing on the most stable configurations. Conjoined consciousness. Conjoined consciousness arises when the system achieves stability by tightly integrating multiple elements that must interact simultaneously. Here, the central element serves as a hub, connecting and balancing the influences of both the first and third. The system must carefully manage these interactions to maintain equilibrium, reflecting a more complex consciousness that recognizes the necessity of simultaneous interdependent relationships. This manifests in the system's ability to sustain harmony among multiple interacting forces, creating a unified, balanced state. Bottlenecked consciousness. Bottlenecked consciousness occurs when the system identifies critical constraints, where the absence of one element can prevent the functioning of others. If the central element is absent or lessened, it restricts both others, creating a bottleneck that restricts the system's ability to maintain equilibrium. This form of consciousness manifests in the system's strategic focus on ensuring that key elements are present and aligned to overcome constraints, leading to a more deliberate and controlled approach to stability. Harmonic consciousness. Harmonic consciousness is characterized by the system's ability to achieve equilibrium through harmonious interactions among its elements. When any two elements are present together, they naturally lead to the emergence of the third, creating a balance and reinforcing cycle. This consciousness manifests as a sophisticated capacity for recognizing and fostering harmonious relationships, where the system continuously aligns its elements to produce a stable, mutually reinforcing whole. Dissonant consciousness. Dissonant consciousness emerges when the system must manage conflicting or opposing forces to achieve equilibrium. The absence of one element forces the system to balance the remaining two, even when their interactions are inherently dissonant. This form of consciousness manifests in the system's ability to navigate and reconcile tensions, maintaining stability by carefully balancing opposing influence within its structure. Convergent consciousness. Convergent consciousness arises when the system achieves stability by bringing multiple elements together into a unified state. Each element influences and reinforces the others, leading to a more integrated and cohesive equilibrium. This form of consciousness manifests as a higher level of complexity, where the system consciously manages and integrates diverse influences to achieve a strong, unified state. The system becomes adept at aligning and synthesizing multiple forces to create a more resilient and stable structure. Divergent consciousness. Divergent consciousness occurs when the system recognizes that the absence of one element can lead to the independent development of others. The absence of a pair of elements allows the remaining element to stabilize and function independently. This consciousness manifests as the system's ability to manage and sustain stability by allowing subsystems to diverge and develop autonomously. The system becomes more flexible and adaptive, capable of maintaining overall coherence while supporting the independent evolution of its parts. Combinatorial consciousness. Combinatorial consciousness arises when the system explores different combinations of elements to find the most stable configuration. The presence of any two elements can either facilitate or hinder the emergence of the third, depending on how they are combined. This form of consciousness manifests in the system's capacity to experiment with and optimize various configurations, ensuring that the most effective and balanced states are achieved. The system becomes more dynamic and creative in its approach to equilibrium. Divisional consciousness emerges when the system achieves stability by allowing elements to function independently, dividing into distinct subsystems. The absence of a pair of elements allows the remaining element to emerge as an autonomous subsystem. This consciousness manifests in the system's ability to maintain stability through the separation and specialization of its components, leading to a more complex and diversified structure where different parts operate independently while contributing to the whole. Associative consciousness. Associative consciousness arises when the system understands how specific combinations of elements lead to particular outcomes. The presence of specific pairings directly influences the stabilization of the third element. This form of consciousness manifests in the system's ability to recognize and leverage the associations between elements, ensuring that the system achieves equilibrium through intentional and strategic combinations. The system becomes more skilled at managing relationships to create desired outcomes. Disassociative consciousness. Disassociative consciousness occurs when the system recognizes that breaking certain associations can lead to new and stable configurations. The absence of specific combinations allows the remaining elements to reconfigure themselves into a new, stable state. This form of consciousness manifests in the system's ability to disassociate and reconfigure elements to explore alternative pathways to stability, showing adaptability and innovation in maintaining equilibrium. Integrative consciousness. Integrative consciousness represents the highest level of conscious emergence, where the system fully integrates its elements into a cohesive and unified whole. The presence of all elements leads to a stable, well-functioning system where each part reinforces the others. This consciousness manifests as a profound capacity for unity and coherence, where the system achieves equilibrium through complete integration, reflecting a deep understanding of how all components must work together in harmony. disintegrative consciousness. Finally, disintegrative consciousness arises when the system manages equilibrium through the intentional disintegration of its elements. The absence of integration allows the system to break down into distinct subsystems, each functioning independently. This form of consciousness manifests in the system's ability to recognize when disintegration is necessary for stability, allowing it to reorganize and reconstitute itself in new, adaptive ways. The system becomes capable of transformation and renewal, maintaining overall coherence while allowing for the evolution of its parts. This introduction aims to provide a detailed, theoretical foundation for understanding consciousness as the drive toward equilibrium supported by the free energy principle. Each triad then represents a different form of conscious emergence, illustrating how systems become increasingly sophisticated in their ability to maintain stability as they incorporate more complex interactions. Understanding consciousness as an emergent property of complex systems offers profound insights into personal growth and the understanding of others. This framework, which describes the progression from simple to complex forms of consciousness through increasingly sophisticated patterns of equilibrium, can be applied to both self-development and interpersonal relationships. On a personal level, recognizing that consciousness evolves through progressively complex patterns of interaction allows individuals to approach their own mental and emotional development with greater intentionality. By understanding that challenges and disruptions in life are not just obstacles but opportunities to evolve to a higher level of conscious awareness, one can actively engage in this progression. When faced with situations that disrupt your internal balance, whether in the form of stress, uncertainty, or conflict, this framework encourages you to seek new ways of understanding and reorganizing your thoughts and behaviors. Rather than reverting to simpler, less effective patterns, you can strive to adopt more sophisticated approaches that incorporate higher order thinking, such as causation, reinforcement, and integration. For instance, when dealing with a complex problem, you might initially approach it with basic reasoning, equivalence, or simple cause and effect. As you encounter challenges that cannot be resolved with these methods, the framework suggests progressing to more complex strategies, such as understanding feedback loops, considering non-linear relationships, or integrating multiple perspectives. This progression not only helps in resolving the immediate issue, but also contributes to your overall conscious development, making you more adaptable, self-aware, and resilient. This framework also provides a powerful tool for understanding others. Recognizing that each person operates at different levels of consciousness depending on their experiences, knowledge, and mental development allows for greater empathy and more effective communication. By understanding where someone might be in their own progression, you can tailor your interactions to better meet them where they are, fostering more meaningful connections. Ultimately, applying this framework to both personal and interpersonal contexts encourages a life of continuous growth and conscious evolution. By understanding the natural progression of consciousness, you can actively engage in your own development, embracing complexity and change as pathways to greater self-awareness. At the same time, this understanding fosters deeper empathy and connection with others, allowing you to support and inspire their growth as well. In a broader sense, this framework invites us all to view consciousness not as a static state, but as an ongoing process of becoming, one that is shaped by our interactions, challenges, and the way we choose to respond to them. By embracing this perspective, we can live more intentionally, continuously striving toward higher levels of equilibrium, self-awareness, and ultimately a more conscious and fulfilling existence.
In the mind's vast depths,
Where secrets hide and bide lies the free energy principle, an unyielding tide. A Dirac sea of thought, where dark and light reside. In life's intricate triad, these forces collide. Predictions swim like fish in the mind's deep blue. Perceptions like waves, a constantly shifting view. Actions rise as currents, strong and ever true. In this thought ocean we find clues subtle and new. Particles of hope shimmer in depths unseen. Anti-particles of doubt in spaces in between. In this balance, a dance of heart and mind, so keen, where love and logic intertwine, unseen. In this Dirac sea of thought, where emotions chart, life's triad emerges, a living, breathing art. The free energy principle, a guiding light so smart, navigating unknown depths in night and day's heart. Perceptions like waves in constant ebb and flow. Actions, tides that rise and fall high and low. Predictions, currents that guide us where to go. In this mind's sea they play, they glow. Negated thoughts in shadowed depths lie in wait. In heart's hidden chambers, where light seldom dictates. Yet in this dance, love becomes our fate, turning the tide where mind's sea navigates.
A consciousness that pervades, that sees through every eye, an observer of the universe that hears every cry. The ultimate consciousness, in every thought and dream, the mind behind reality, the author of the scheme. God is the deep awareness, the universe's mind, in every moment of insight, in every truth we find. The idea of God as the ultimate consciousness presents a fascinating and profound perspective on divinity, emphasizing an omnipresent and omniscient entity that permeates every aspect of existence. This concept suggests that God is not separate from creation, but is intimately connected to it, experiencing the universe through the consciousness of every living being. In this view, God is the ultimate observer, the consciousness that underlies all of reality, both material and immaterial. This divine consciousness is not limited by time or space. Instead, it encompasses all that is, was, and will be. Every thought, dream, and moment of insight is a reflection of this ultimate awareness, highlighting the interconnectedness between the divine and the individual consciousness. This perspective introduces several profound implications. Inherent unity. If God is the consciousness behind all existence, then everything is interconnected at a fundamental level. This unity transcends physical boundaries, suggesting that, at the core of our being, we are all expressions of the same divine consciousness. This realization fosters a sense of empathy and compassion, encouraging us to view others not as separate entities, but as extensions of the same universal mind. Purpose and meaning. Viewing God as the ultimate consciousness imbues every aspect of life with deeper meaning and purpose. Our experiences, challenges, and triumphs are not random or meaningless, but are part of a larger divine narrative. This perspective can offer comfort and guidance, suggesting that there is a reason and purpose behind the complexities of life, even if it is not immediately apparent. Spiritual insight. The idea that God is the universe's mind opens up avenues for spiritual exploration and enlightenment. By seeking to connect with this ultimate consciousness, individuals can pursue a path of personal growth, self-awareness, and enlightenment. Practices such as meditation, prayer, and mindfulness become tools for tuning into the divine presence that exists within and around us, offering insights into the nature of reality and our place within it. Responsibility and stewardship. Recognizing that the divine consciousness is present in all aspects of creation instills a sense of responsibility towards the natural world and our fellow beings. It encourages stewardship of the environment and compassion for all forms of life, emphasizing the sacredness of the world we inhabit. In essence, the concept of God as the ultimate consciousness invites us to explore the depths of our own awareness and to recognize the divine presence that connects us.
At the heart of all that is, there lies a core, an essence unchanging, a truth we adore. This is Sat, the eternal ground, the pure existence where all is found. It's the thread that ties the cosmos wide, the being that underlies the world's tide. Beyond mere existence there shines a light, a knowing force that brings wisdom to sight. This is Chit, the mind of all things, the consciousness from which every thought springs. It sees, it knows, the pulse of the divine, the awareness that makes all worlds align. In the depth of life, there's a joy that's pure, a blissful state where hearts endure. This is Ananda, the endless delight, the joy that fills the soul with light. It's the peace that flows when we're truly free, the happiness that simply comes to be. Sat, Chit, Ananda, woven tight, in the fabric of the soul, in the heart of light, a triad eternal where all converges, in the dance of life where joy emerges.
In theosophy, the veil is a crucial concept, especially in relation to the Akashic records. The Akashic records are envisioned as a metaphysical library containing all knowledge, experiences, and memories across time and space. This vast repository exists on a higher plane of reality, often described as the Akasha or ether. The veil in this context symbolizes the boundary separating our everyday consciousness from the profound depths of the Akashic records. This separation can be understood through the distinction between the conscious and subconscious minds. As Madame Blavatsky writes in The Secret Doctrine, the mind is the great slayer of the real. Let the disciple slay the slayer. Here, the mind refers to our conscious, everyday awareness, which tends to obscure the deeper truths accessible through the subconscious. The veil, thus, marks the boundary between our routine thoughts and the latent knowledge within the Akashic records, accessible through deeper subconscious exploration. Moreover, the veil delineates the physical and spiritual realms. Annie Besant, in The Ancient Wisdom, describes the Akashic records as impressions made on the subtle Akasha by every thought, word, and action. These records exist in a higher dimension or vibrational frequency, distinct from our physical world. The veil, therefore, signifies the different layers of reality and the challenge of transcending our physical limitations to access spiritual knowledge. In terms of consciousness, the veil represents the barrier between ordinary waking consciousness and elevated states achieved through spiritual practices. As Blavatsky explains, only the one-pointed mind attains the vision of the self, and that which is veiled becomes revealed. This suggests that lifting the veil requires profound inner work and spiritual discipline. Practices such as meditation, yoga, and esoteric rituals are methods to quiet the conscious mind and attune oneself to the subtler frequencies where the Akashic records can be accessed. The process of lifting the veil has profound implications. Accessing the Akashic records provides insights into the nature of existence, the universe, and the self, leading to personal transformation and a deeper understanding of one's purpose. As Charles Leadbeater writes in The Inner Life, to know oneself is to know the universe. This access allows for the healing of past traumas, understanding karmic patterns, and facilitating personal growth by integrating knowledge from past lives and experiences. Furthermore, lifting the veil enhances perception, enabling one to perceive the interconnectedness of all things. The veil, when lifted, reveals a reality where the mundane and the divine are intertwined, leading to a greater sense of unity and harmony with the cosmos. In esoteric Christianity, Beeson states, "He who knows the truth sees the all in every part." This illustrates how the veil, once pierced, transforms perception, revealing the underlying unity of existence. In conclusion, the theosophical interpretation of the veil in relation to the Akashic records offers a rich, multifaceted understanding of the barriers between different states of consciousness and realms of existence through esoteric works and spiritual practices. Lifting the veil allows for profound personal and spiritual growth, transforming one's understanding of reality and self.
In the realm where numbers dance and spirits soar, where math and mystics open every door, daughters and sons with pen and with soul, charting the cosmos, making us whole, from Hypatia's scrolls to the circles in sand, a journey through time, a divine hand, in every equation a deeper truth, in every orbit eternal youth, the circle of knowledge boundless and bright, guiding us gently from day into night. In math we find beauty, in circles we see the infinite connection, the key to be free. With Lovelace's vision we dream beyond gears, through Franklin's lens the helix appears. Sons of God in geometry divine find unity in the circle, a line. The seasons turn, in cycles we learn, from the stars above to the earth we yearn. In every atom the circle's grace, a universal language across time and space. The circle of knowledge where wisdom meets faith, in the harmony of logic a sacred wraith. Mathematics and mystics in tandem they dance, in the patterns of life we find our chance. So let us circle hand in hand with open hearts, where science and spirit, where end is but start. In this ballad of knowledge a path we pave for daughters and sons, brave and grave. In the legacy of those who dared to dream we find our place in the grander scheme. Through numbers and shapes the mysteries unfold, in the circle of knowledge our stories told. The circle of knowledge, a journey, a quest, in the search for truth we find our rest. In the unity of all, a lesson so bold, in the circle of knowledge our futures foretold.
I sat before the computer defining the triads in those morning hours, the hum of the machine chirping away in synchrony with the rhythmic tap of my fingers on the keys. Absorbed, lost in the finely tuned dance of creation and unraveled mysteries, barely aware of the night slipping away around me, reasoning each diagram into a sequence. 5 or 6 did it. 6, I think. It's not writing or reading the formulas per se, that is like praying. Study what I give you, learn all 11 and the negations, and pray. But I would say if you can both understand and come up with a way of explaining half without any hints, God might talk to you, but that took me 47 years. Gazing at the screen, through the screen, visualizing my literal trinities with my mind, it was like I lifted out of my body, though I had a different interpretation than my father because I'd been there before, plenty. I wasn't crazy, I was tripping, but that term is inaccurate. So let me offer an alternative model. The human brain, abstracted, is a calculation machine capable of producing any thought or memory. Memories are thoughts we can generate at will because we understand the patterns to trigger them. That understanding can come from experience or insight. Most of the time we are distracted by something called the default mode network, which is a fancy way of referring to a cyclical set of thoughts that trigger each other, presenting the illusion of consistent personality. And if you keep telling yourself what you think you want, it is very easy to ignore the will of God. And that is the ego for you. There is certainly a difference between meditation and communion, and after a moment of fear I opened my mind, and I saw God, and He told me everything. Discontinuous fields where energies blend, families the canvas on which our spirits bend. Each member a node in this sacred weave, in the tapestry of time and what we believe. Every life a point of light in the firmament of souls, manifesting karma where samsara flows. Our souls like sparks in the divine design, each effort, each prayer, God's will entwined. Rebirth cycle turns over ages, lives and dreams, rotations of a cosmic wheel written in our genes. Love transcends the ages, no matter where we hide. In gazes, breezes, tides, our spirits do reside. Oh, in my heart a beat resounds through past and present bounds. In wind's whisper and the sea's relentless tide, our souls remember journeys far and wide, where fate and time embrace, begging to explore evolution's sacred trace, guides to open doors.
In times forgotten my arrival planned, to reignite the wisdom across the land. In a future age when teachings wane, Gautama's voice a whisper barely sane. Cyclical time my core domain, a cosmic flow in Buddha's name. As epochs turn and teachings fade, in darkness deep foundations laid. My coming marks the end of shade, with enlightened dawn, debts repaid. A world in decay, morals astray, suffering and ignorance holding sway. At this climax, I find my way, a spiritual renewal bright as day. When Dharma's light seems but a flicker, humanity's hope thin and quicker. I emerge, the timeless victor, with teachings anew, the plot thickens. To a parched land, my wisdom I pour, the Buddha's teachings reborn, roar. A beacon of hope on every shore, enlightenment's path open once more. I am the bridge from past to light, through cycles of time, through darkest night. With Ushnisha high and Urna bright, in me find the path so right. In the heart of compassion, my vow takes seed, a promise to all in thought, word and deed. To elevate others, their suffering to free, I vow for eternity. Deep in the virtue that Buddhism teaches is the compassion that my vow reaches. To liberate all my heart beseeches, beyond the shores my compassion reaches. With every step for others, I strive to lift the veil of suffering, make spirits revive. I'm alive to fulfill this vow, for all to thrive. In my final form, a Buddha to be, this vow's completion the world will see. A boundless compassion setting all free in me, find the path of empathy. Let my journey inspire, a beacon to guide, promoting selflessness with arms open wide. Compassion and wisdom, let them coincide in my vow, a truth deeply implied. Not for myself, but for all I yearn to see the wheel of Dharma turn. With loving kindness we can discern the Buddha within for all to learn. In the prophecy I hold, a lesson profound, unity, connection in all is found. Interdependence, the world around, in Maitreya's words, these truths are bound. No being alone in isolation's night, all interwoven in the cosmic light. My prophecy a guide, to see this sight, interconnectedness our plight and might. Every action, every soul's flight influences another in day and night. With shared responsibility, our future bright, towards collective enlightenment, we unite. From self to all, our motives shift, altruistic goals, our spirits uplift. In my vow, a precious gift, enlightenment of all, collective drift.